This is from the Chelek Tes Vav, the third Sikha of Parshas Toldos. When Rashi is explaining why Yitschak's eyes went blind in his old age, Rashi gives a few explanations, and one of the explanations is that Yitschak had to go blind because that's how Yaakov ended up getting the brachas that Yitschak had intended for Eisav. That Yitschak thought he was giving them to Eisav, but because he couldn't see, he didn't realize that he was giving them to Yaakov. Now, Yitschak, when he went blind, still had many years left in his life. And therefore, what comes out is that Yitschak went blind for something that happened, that Yaakov should get the brachas, but the result is that Yitschak was blind for the rest of his life after that. It's a pretty drastic measure to take to make sure that one event will take place, that Yaakov will take the brachas. A much simpler solution, a much simpler method of making sure that Yaakov gets the brachas and not Eisav, is that the Eibishter, instead of making Yitzchak blind, should tell Yitzchak all about his son Eisav and dispel any notions that Yitzchak has about Eisav being any kind of a tzaddik, especially since Yitzchak was already suspicious of Eisav, as we find in the Torah. And Yitzchak already knew what was happening in Eisav's house with Eisav's wives, that they were offering offerings to Avodah Zarah. Yitzchak wouldn't have been shocked if Hashem would have told him the whole story about Eisav and told him, your son Eisav is a Rasha and you shouldn't give him the brachas, and the brachas would have gone to Yaakov. And yet that Hashem doesn't tell Yitzchak. Instead, Hashem causes Yitzchak not to be able to see, and that's how Yaakov gets the brachas. And why is that? And the answer is that Hashem does this because Hashem doesn't want to tell Yitzchak that Eisav is a Rasha. Because although Eisav was Taka a Rasha, but Eisav was the son of Rivka, just like Yaakov. Eisav was considered a Yisrael. He was considered, by the standards of those days, a Jew. A Yisrael Mumar, a sinful Jew, a wicked Jew, but a Jew. We find in the Gemara that when Yehoshua lost the war in Ai, he was very, very despondent. And he says to Hashem, why did you abandon the Jews and you didn't help them? And Hashem said to him, I abandoned the Jews. Yisrael chata. Yisrael, the Jews, sinned. And that's why they lost. Because one of the Jews took some from the spoils of the war that they weren't supposed to. They were supposed to leave it. So Yeshua said, what do you mean? Yisrael chata, a Jew sinned. Who sinned? Tell me, I'll take care of it. And Hashem said, you think that I'm going to gossip and tell you who sinned? You should cast a lot and you'll figure it out yourself, but I'm not going to tell you. And there, the Gemara says that when Hashem says Yisrael chata, it means that even though chata, he's Yisrael. Even though he sins, he's still a Jew. Afal pisha chata Yisrael hu. And Hashem doesn't want to speak lashon hara about the Jew, even though it's true, and even though he's guilty. But Hashem doesn't want to be the one to expose him. He doesn't want to speak lashon hara about him. Same thing here. Hashem doesn't want to speak lashon hara about Eisav, to the point that Yitzchak becomes blind so that Yaakov can take the bracha, because Hashem doesn't want to speak lashon hara about Eisav. And that's a Jew before Matan Torah, and the Yidden who, after they stood on Matan Torah, and Hashem said, Anochi Hashem Aleikecha, that is you and me and all the Jews that exist today, how much more so we have to be careful to the nth degree not to speak badly about our fellow Jew.